another episode of The Diplomats, brought to you by diplomacybriefing.com and our ongoing coverage of the Nexus Season 7 finals game. And in today's show, we'll be focusing on spring 1907. I'm Wardy, and as ever, I'm joined by Mr. Eric Grinnell. How you doing, Eric?
Hello, people.
Hey, everybody. And this is where we left off last time when we were joined by Bradley or Grayson or Alpha Dreadlord. And Italy had taken Vienna and blown up Budapest. And we were looking at the builds, which haven't come through yet. We were thinking Army for... Army Con, Army Venice, and Fleet Rome, I think was what we were suggesting. Before we get to those builds, here are some comments. Lady Razor, wow, Creel is really desperate to prove Lex Luthor wrong, a noble cause. Ewok,
Matt,
good game, Tarsia.
Matt, if you ever want to prove me wrong, you just form a committee, and I'm always wrong, no matter what. So
sadly, we lost Tarsia. We lost Russia from the game. Good game, Tarsia says Greg Ewok. I won't allow these little punks to get away with this heinous injustice. You shall be avenged. Yeah, like he's doing it for that reason. Kudasov points out, because if I'm not mistaken, this finals has the most eliminations. We've now got 3 with Russia following England and Austria. This is true, says Ewok. No finals has ever had more than 2 knocked out. And Rony Morbanov points out what that has done, what the effect of that is. He said the board is ossified with all the eliminations that have happened. Italy and Germany will decide who wins this one, and it could be John. It's all diplomatic now, getting the others to choose you as the winner. Brute force is very unlikely to work here for anyone unless they all decide to start fighting each other. And that seems to echo what you've been saying of late, Eric, the fact that it's not so much tactical, it's now diplomatic. There's with so many eliminations, there isn't that sort of element of chaos in there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree for the most part, with one minor exception. It's definitely diplomatic, and it's going to come down to the diplomacy of it. However, it's not going to be John. That's not correct.
This bet between you and Bradley could bring something. I don't know. It would surprise.
Grogu is keeping my dunce cap warm, and I am not going to eat that hat. So when I'm done, I'll send this. I will mail it to Bradley.
Not even with soy sauce.
Not even with soy. Soy sauce makes everything better. So.
And here's something that makes our show better. The artwork of the very talented and very witty Lady Razor. Quatuor equus certatio. Excuse my Latin pronunciation. We have a 4-horse confrontation, although it sounds like it's more a 3-horse race at this point. And we've got the chariot drivers of Krill and Greg with poor Ed being ridden hard, and John there doing his best on his little hobby horse. And I had to put this in Ed's reaction to that. Are you flipping kidding me? I wait 5 seasons to get back into the final, and this is my reward. I'm not sure quite when this concept came about, but it feels like that now, actually.
Yeah, this artwork, I don't agree on multiple counts. So that's supposed to be John down there showing off his buttocks on the hobby horse. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah, no, that's not John at all. John doesn't have a worry in the world. That is not the mentality with which he's playing. Okay, John's not worried. John's going to probably play ping pong 3 or 4 more times during the course of this game and suffer very little consequences for it. He's not going to win, but he's going to continue to grow. So he's not worried. He's got a big old smile on his face. And I don't think that Ed should be down there in front like that, and Krill up there in the driver's seat with Greg. By the way, Greg has Hitler eyes again. Greg, you really need to talk to Lady Razor and ask why they think you look so much like Hitler. Now, if I were going to draw a chariot scene with these guys, I would hearken back to the movie Ben-Hur. And when they were filming the movie Ben-Hur, one of the actors, it was a long time ago, and the safety standards on set were different.
I think you're talking about the Charlton Heston one.
Yeah, Ben-Hur, Charlton Heston. One of the actors actually got trampled by a horse in a chariot, and they actually left that footage in the movie. So you should go check that out. I know you're a little younger than me, so you probably never saw it.
I saw the remake a few years ago. I hope the original is.
I don't think the remake killed anybody. I think the original has that distinct honor. Okay, but if you go back and watch it, yeah, there was a man got run over by a chariot in the filming of that movie, and he died.
I thought you meant like injured.
Krill's going to get run over by that chariot, and the main reason that Krill's going to get run over by that chariot is John is playing a proper turkey and is not going to quit gobbling up dots from behind. And there is absolutely no way that Krill can survive. Krill can't survive Greg and John at the same time, yet alone Greg and John and Ed at the same time. Krill's reached his high water mark.
So maybe John is the wild card. That I said a couple of minutes ago that with the eliminations, perhaps there's that reduced chaos, but maybe it can be provided by Turkey.
Well, as long as Greg and Ed continue to Care Bear in the West, I think that things favor Ed ever so slightly. However, based on the way they have played to this point, Greg has more opportunity to stab Ed than Ed does Greg. And we'll talk about that when we get into moves.
Okay. So let's have a look at the these builds. We had Army Khan and Army Venice as discussed in the last show, but Fleet Naples instead of Fleet Rome. So he can't cover Tuscany here. I mean, why Naples, do we think?
Habit, not wanting to look aggressive. He spent the diplomatic season trying to beg Greg a little bit more. I think it was a real mistake. Sometimes you got to pick how you're going to die, and I think that Matt is very smart here, and he knows how much trouble he's in. I think he spent the season trying to beg Greg to go away, but when we see the spring moves, we're going to see that wasn't successful. I think this was a mistake here. There were only 3 builds going down on this map. It was 1 for Turkey and 2 for him. He had 2 builds because he was fortunate enough to keep Rome, and with France having no builds, I think that it was a mistake to not build in Rome. I think it was a mistake to not build in Rome. The only reason to build in Naples is if you truly are planning to try and defend yourself against Turkey. You know, you could do it.
Maybe he's worried about a fleet con here. Maybe that's what it is.
I don't think that John has the ability to build a fleet con here. I wouldn't have worried about that much, but that's the only possible explanation for it, other than my theory. He just wanted to beg Greg to go away. So you might be right, but regardless, worrying about a fleet con was a waste of stress, and trying to beg Greg to change theaters after Greg has already committed 4 of his units against Krill was a waste of effort. I would have definitely built in Rome here. Definitely would have built in Rome. So, but I might be wrong. These guys prove me wrong all the time. So
let's have a look at the spring moves then. And given what we've just been talking about, the thing that jumps out is the fact that Naples moves immediately to Rome.
If you were going to do Naples to Rome, you should have definitely built in Rome. Should have definitely built in Rome. So
the irony, of course, is that Bulgaria, they might as well have been a fleet con build, because Bulgaria's south coast has moved to Aegean.
Yeah, Krill's in a lot of trouble here. Because he has too many things to worry about. He didn't have the units available to try and fight France and Germany and to keep John honest. He thought he could keep John honest with diplomacy, and that proved to be fruitless. So now Matt has to fight France and Turkey. Matt Krill may find himself forced to reach a reconciliation with Ed, which is only going to favor Ed. So, you know, I'm not sure I agree with John supporting Ed into Romania like that. He could have used his opportunity to leverage Krill into, you need to give me Romania.
Now there's 3 German units on Sevastopol.
So that was 3 German units on Sev. Yeah. And that's a huge opportunity for Ed. Because if he can get an army into Sevastopol, he can then drop it down into Armenia when he gets the chance. You know? And if he doesn't get the chance, I guess he just retreats Sev to Armenia. But if he stays in Black Sea to keep Ed honest and stays in Armenia to keep it blocked, John's future growth prospects are greatly diminished. And if we've seen anything in this game, John, being a good and proper diplomacy player that he is always looking for his next dot. No, John should have insisted that Krill help him take Romania here, because he could have taken it from Khan via the convoy.
Yeah.
And then he could have sold to Matt Krill. Well, you'll be losing the dot, but you'll have my army. Okay.
John can't have been expecting Moscow support Warsaw to Ukraine. He must have been expecting Warsaw to support hold Galicia. And that would have blown up the Italian army, which presumably is why he moves it out of there. But is there any chance?
If you look at Serbia and Romania, you know, when you're surrounded by that many units and you order one unit alone into a space that you occupy, A, you're thinking you're going to make Galicia, right? And B, you're thinking you got support. So I think John screwed him here. And I think John screwed him without even getting the dot. It's a real difficult position for Matt Krill. It's unfortunate for him to have played this well and end up with so few options and so few prospects. I feel deeply for him. It sucks.
So it seems to make sense here for Italy and Turkey to work with each other again. We had an IT earlier in the game. Krill then helped John again, which sort of got John out of the box, and it seems to be blowing up in Matt Krill's face. But maybe there's an opportunity here. They can retake Rum if they work together, and they can put pressure on Germany if they work together. But then does that just gift the win to Greg? I'm only going to say this. Matt Krill stabbed John first. Yeah, fair. So John is not in any existential jeopardy whatsoever. He is not going to be eliminated. He is going to survive this game. The only thing left for John to figure out is if he's going to end this game in 4th or in 3rd, possibly an outside chance to finish in 2nd. Okay. And Krill has nothing to offer John anymore, because there are no dots for Krill to offer John except for his own. And at this point, John's got no more gains left on this board. Excuse me. Matt Krill has no more gains left on this board. So with no more gains left to be had on this board,
theoretically, if things go really, really poorly, he might end up in Warsaw at some point. But other than that, nothing. So with no future growth prospects in his future, Matt Crow has nothing to offer John if John is a hungry, aggressive, dot pursuing player coming out of the corner, trying to maximize his position at the end of the game. So with nothing left to offer John is nothing except for Matt Crow's Predator. And I think
you could offer to, they could take Ukraine and put Turkey can get Rum and Moscow and Warsaw potentially.
I don't anticipate
with Greece. That could be, you know.
You know, why go through all that hell? Why go through all that struggle, hoping that Matt Crow, the guy who stabbed me in the first place, that I'd be in a much better position if we'd stayed in the IT? Why go through all that hassle and all that trust in hopes that we can get up there and get me 1 dot when I could just take 3 off Matt Crow? Zero chance.
In the looking at the other side of the board, just to sort of get this out of the way, none of the French units move. He's bounced out of North Africa.
Burgundy Norwegian Sea is great, man. Belgium to NATO is great. You see what he did there, don't you? You know what he did that for, don't you?
But there's the V. Where's the I?
V for victory.
Well, he's done VI, Village Idiot, before. He did that as Russia on the finals board in season 6. Forgot how backstabbing.
Maybe the I is London to NATO. So
maybe I don't like it. If that is the case, Greg, do better, please. Want to say?
Hey, I think having the spare units to do V for victory is cool enough.
Yeah, an army into Prussia and order it to Bothnia or something.
I think the predominant story in the West is they continue to care bear each other. Now that Ed has a fleet in Denmark and a fleet in Skagerrak and a fleet in St. Pete North Coast, he can now order St. Pete to Norway and do a 2-unit attack on North, so that if North goes anywhere, he's losing North Sea and he's in trouble. This is still a slight advantage to Greg, because Greg can now support himself in North and use North to convoy London somewhere. I was tempted to write up slides of, here's how Germany could attack France, and here's how France could attack Germany. But I didn't want to disturb my narrative that these guys are a couple care bears. I wanted to leave that narrative undisturbed so that if they ever do stab each other, I can act all shocked and amazed and make myself another dunce cat.
Does Greg have to hope that the win comes to him through just board dynamics and the effects out from elsewhere on the board? Or can he go get it? Can he force victory?
As I said earlier, Greg has much more ability to go after Ed than Ed has to go after Greg. He could. Depending on the positions, I'll make that slide up for the fall show. Here's how Ed could go after Greg. Here's how Greg could go after Ed. I truly think that these guys have an agreement that they're not going to go after each other, and they're keeping the agreement.
Isn't there a risk though? If Greg attacks Ed, then it just gives victory to Matt Quill. Is he waiting for the last possible moment to go for it?
Well, that's how all these diplomacy players play these season limited games. They piddle plop around until the very end, and then they make a play against each other. I just want to check. Piddle plop. I'm working really hard to not use obscenities.
You're on your best behavior.
Sorry, my best behavior apparently is not good enough because the complaints about me continue to flow. But I'm trying, folks. I'm trying.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Doesn't matter how good I do. They just complain about stuff I did half a year ago, so it doesn't matter. So,
okay. So let's talk about the German prospects here, because he does seem best placed for victory at the moment, provided he can avoid a late stab from France.
Agreed. The spaces here that matter. The spaces here that matter as relates to the war between Ed and Greg, if there is a war between Ed and Greg, the spaces that matter are Ruhr, Holland, Helgoland and Norwegian Sea. And diplomatically, Ed and Greg have maneuvered each other very well. Neither one is in all that great a position to jump out and grab more than one of those spaces at a time. Right now, Greg is in jeopardy. I don't know if, wait, I said it wrong. Greg has an advantage. Ed is in jeopardy right now because Greg could support North Sea hold. North Sea could convoy London to Holland, and Belgium could support London to Holland while North does the convoy. So, but we see here in the spring move, Ed has moved down to Ruhr. So I'm not sure that Greg can really take a shot at Holland now because he's got to make sure he doesn't lose Burgundy. So there's a little bit of trust here. If Ed chose to push the advantage, right now would be the time to do it. Greg is one fleet short. He's not flexible. He doesn't have the ability to drop into Helgoland and then bounce Ed out of North. He's one unit behind. And I think Greg is a long way away from getting another build. His next build is going to be Tunis, and he's not going to get Tunis until 1909, unless Matt Krill gets mad at John and collapses his Western Front, and then Greg can grab Tunis, Rome, have a shot at Naples.
This might be the opposite. This might be Matt Krill saying to Greg, you need to. I'm getting beaten up here by Germany. You need to go and beat him. You need to go and make a move on him. If not, you're not getting anything from here, and Turkey will get my dots. I won't defend against Turkey. You go. If you don't make a move elsewhere, I'm just going to sit here and block your path.
Well, because of that bounce in North Africa, Greg is still sitting in Mayo, has the ability to bop up into Neo. And if he bops back up into Neo, this is a completely different game in the end game. I just haven't seen this board play out that way. I think that the level of diplomacy and cooperation between Greg and Ed is really, really respectable. I know if I was a player in this board, I'd be furious at the both of them because in my underdeveloped, unskilled take on the game, I think that's not how you play this game. And that's why those two consistently beat me.
Okay? I guess it's whatever gets you to meet your goals, I guess. However you should.
I continue whenever I look at, well, why did they do this? Why did they do this? I continue to think in the back of my mind, Greg might not care if he comes in second to Ed because he's won this tournament twice already.
I think he's won it once. This would be second, I think. But even so, he's won it. He's won it before. But I just don't think that's part of his mentality.
If he ends up winning this game, I will praise him as a mastermind. And if he ends up coming in second to Ed, I will be very critical of his lack of aggressive play.
We both know what he can do. And he's going to make a move. It's whether Ed can.
If you're making a reference to our semifinal game, Wardy, he doesn't have any weak-willed suck-ups to manipulate. So no, he wouldn't do this at all. His game was completely different than ours. I'm sorry?
I wouldn't be that harsh on you.
Yeah, well, it was all me. It was all me.
Gosh. Let's turn back to Italy again, because I want to say it does does Matt still have any path to victory? I know he's in a tight spot.
As we all know, I see the world in black and white. And in a game like this, seeing the world in black and white means I vacillate between being right and wrong, right and wrong, right and wrong, which is what this entire game has been for me. Thus the dunce cap. Okay. Given my perspective, my current take on this game is that no, he doesn't have a path to victory. He doesn't have a path to victory. He's getting squeezed. He's getting squeezed.
Even if war suddenly broke out between France and Germany.
If that were going to happen in a way that gave Matt Krill an opportunity to still have a shot at victory, it better happen quickly, because John continues to crawl on him. So, you know, he's already lost Romania. He potentially could take Romania back. What he can't do is take Romania back and protect Greece against an attack from John. Prospectively, he can lose Greece and not get Romania back if he doesn't use Ionian immediately with support from Serbia to cover Greece. But if he uses Ionian to cover Greece, he's never going to have enough units in place to push back Greg. So his only solution to his Western front with Greg is going to be a diplomatic one. And it's 1907. So you take a look at those dots. You take a look at those units: Army Piedmont, Fleet Gulf of Lyon, Fleet West Med, Fleet Mayo. The only one of those 4 units that could possibly come to the fray and engage Ed before 1910 comes and goes is that Fleet and Mayo. Other than that, he'd have to let Piedmont into Tyrolia so that Greg can have a shot at Munich. And Greg will eventually play at that near the end of the game. None of that involves anyone taking enough pressure off Matt Curl that he's got a chance to come back at this. He's tied with the board leader at 10-10. But, you know, you pull any 10 diplomacy players you want and ask, who do you want to be right now? Do you want to be Ed, or do you want to be Matt Curl? Do you want to be Germany? Do you want to be Italy? Most people are going to say Germany. The only people I can think of that are in this hobby that would look at this board and say, oh yeah, I'll take Italy, and be able to pull it off are Chris Martin and Doug Moore.
Because they're skilled players, or do they have a particular ingredient?
They are 2 of the absolute best players in the game, and they're both stunningly brilliant at Italy.
Both world champions, for those who don't know those names. Okay, all right. Now, shall we have a look at your prediction slide?
Sure, I'm sure they're all wrong. That would be par.
We've still got some care bearing up there in the west. We've got.
I didn't do that. I didn't do this because I thought it was the best tactical decision. I did it based on my assessment of this is how these 2 are playing this game. So
although Fleet North Coast to Norway allows Ed to take North Sea in 1908, which would be interesting.
Yeah, he might be bouncing himself in Norway instead. But at some point, Ed has to start worrying about Greg squeaking into Skag or Helgoland. The overarching theme here isn't what the tactical moves are going to be or on a unit for unit basis. The real point here is I think that Greg and Ed are going to continue to care bear around and maintain status quo in the West.
Well, yeah, it looks yeah. There's a guess here between France and Italy on their almost stalemated position.
It is a slight advantage. It is a slight advantage to Greg. So he can't, he's even got to worry about losing Tyrrhenian Sea right now. So
yeah.
Having failed to build Fleet Rome, I think is going to work very much to Matt Curl's detriment.
Yeah, because he should already be in Tuscany, right?
Whether it is Tuscany or Tyrrhenian Sea or North Africa, my moves on this map notwithstanding, my prediction is whether it's Tuscany or North Africa or Tyrrhenian Sea, something bad is going to happen to Matt Krill in the fall that Matt Krill really doesn't want to happen, and it's going to happen at the hands of Greg, and it's going it's gonna close that window of opportunity for Matt Krill to have any shot at winning this game even narrower. I definitely think the most interesting thing going on this map right now is the battle over Romania. And if you parse these moves out, you've got what should be a standoff. You got John supporting Seb to Romania with 2 supports, both uncut, while Ed supports Romania to Sevastopol with 2 supports, both uncut. Should be a 3-3 bounce. But then you're going to bring Matt Krill back in from Galicia, and that's going to pop that army in Romania and keep Matt Krill even as relates to Romania. He potentially risks losing Greece by doing this, but this comes down to the heart of Matt Krill's quandary here. He's got too much to do with too few units because he's surrounded by too many enemies. So I happen to have him here squeaking into Greece and giving up Ionian Sea. He could just
what a position that is for Turkey.
Say again?
What a position that would be for Turkey.
Yeah. And at that point, Matt Krill would have no choice but to collapse his Western Front, which is what I think is going to happen. The upshot here for Ed is he's losing an army in Romania that he really doesn't need anymore. I believe it's a pop. If this happens, that
would be, yeah.
Then he's going to be in the same position he's been in all game. Oh, I need to lay down a fleet, but I've jockeyed myself diplomatically into such a position with Greg. I've still got to throw another fleet in Berlin, which is going to suck for Ed. So, but I almost think he's got to do it at this point. Although Ed is not short of armies. Ed has plenty of armies. The problem is so many of them are so far east and so far south. Ed probably needs another army at this point because his armies are so far across the stalemate line. Those armies in Warsaw, Ukraine, Moscow aren't going to do him any good defending against Greg if Greg decides to get stabby at the end of the game. So even with this pop, Ed might not build another fleet.
He should. I think hopefully in Kiel, just move Kiel to Holland.
He should move Kiel to Holland right now. I've got him not doing that because remember what I said. I'm not sure about the moves, but I think Ed and Greg are going to continue to be Careberry in the West through at least the end of this year.
So everyone's fighting each other now, apart from.
And however, if they do continue to Carebear each other, no matter what flavor it is, that army's going to end the year in Kiel and be unavailable to drop a fleet down. If he gets out of Kiel and he's already dropped to Skag and already moved to Norway, if he can drop a fleet in Kiel and move it up into Helgoland, this game's over.
In a time-limited game, diplomacy is only to get you to a certain point when you've got to make your move, presumably. There's no point going, I'm trying to keep, Greg diplomatically on side when you know that he knows that he needs to make a move. You're fighting for the same prize. That said, if Matt Krill does give up his Western Front, then Tunis falls to Greg. He then only needs one German dot to...
Or just outrace him.
Say that again?
Or just outrace him. He doesn't necessarily take any dots from Germany. He could just outrace him.
Is he going to get something out? Is he going to get Rome?
If Matt Krill gets angry, yeah.
Who should he be more angry at, Matt? I would have thought Greg over John, no?
Well,
John's got nowhere to go other than Matt, whereas he could be pointing at.
He can't punish John. He can't punish John in any particular way other than you're not getting these dots that you're moving to try and get. That's the only punishment he has available for John. It's a very frustrating position for Matt Krill. I'm very sympathetic.
This is why I'm surprised in a game like this that there have been 3 eliminations, because you want more dynamism. You want more variables on on the board, really. Well,
I still think that eliminating Jordan was not the best move for either Ed or Greg. I think either of them would be in a superior position right now if they had turned Jordan into a puppet. However, Karthik and Spencer suffered the same fate for the same reason. They were in the way. And keeping them in the game was just going to slow the progress of powers with more forces and more flexibility. So Karthik and Spencer are out because they were in the way. I think Jordan should have been left in this game. These guys know better than me, and that's why they're on that end of the map, and I'm on this end of the camera. So,
we got interest. So, who do you think is going to win at this point?
I think the winner of this game is going to be whoever gets in a position to pull the trigger first on each other, as relates to and between Greg and Ed.
We have 7 turns left. So they are rapidly running out of time. It'll be interesting to see what does happen and how closely it resembles what we've got up on screen here.
If it does come down to a conflict between Ed and Greg, Ed ultimately is going to regret having wasted so much tempo and so many units going way farther east and south than a Germany has to go to be in a winning position. He has given up units and tempo that could have been very useful against Greg.
Greg's position seems more compact.
Greg has less exposure than Ed does. In some ways, Greg has a little bit more opportunity. In some ways, Ed has more opportunity than Greg does, but Greg has absolutely no exposure at all. His worst case scenario is he doesn't get past 9. I can't think of a single dot. There's not a single dot that Greg is really truly in jeopardy of losing.
Yeah, I don't think.
Belgium is the only one that's exposed at all. And honestly, his exposure in Belgium is less significant than is his exposure in Burgundy.
So we're saying that Greg has the higher floor, but Ed potentially has the higher ceiling.
Floor and ceiling, yes, yeah. Greg's got a higher floor and Ed's got a higher ceiling. I'd agree with that 100%. Yeah.
I suppose that is the way for Germany. Great growth potential, but it can struggle with defense.
Anyone who's played Germany knows you grow or you die. If you get fortunate enough to grow to the point where you secured a stalemate line from St. Petersburg all the way down to Switzerland, now you could pivot, pinwheel, you got some flexibility. What's fascinating here is Ed has all these units in the east and in the south, and he hasn't secured a stalemate line. If John and Matt Krill could get their act together and say, all right, we're going to go clobber Ed, they could do it. But that's not going to happen on this board.
We look forward to seeing what happens in fall then. There has been a little bit of a break because of the whipping tournament in San Jose.
Never heard of it.
Which I think a couple of the players were at. Matt and Ed were both there, as was Karthik, sadly departed from this board. I'm very jealous. It would have been nice to be able to go to a tournament a little nearer. Hopefully, we on this side of the pond will get the British hobby going again. But yeah, so they will be back, and Fall 07 should adjudicate in a little over 24 hours time from when we record. So thank you for joining me once again, Eric.
All right. Thank you.
Cheerio.